For a long time, scientists believed the brain was mostly fixed after childhood. You developed your personality, your habits, your thought patterns, your abilities, and that was basically it. But we now know that isn't true. The adult brain is constantly changing, rewiring, and reshaping itself based on what you do, what you think, and what you repeatedly experience. This ability is called neuroplasticity, and it explains how people recover skills after brain injury, how trauma shapes behavior, and how habits, thoughts, and repeated experiences can literally carve pathways in the brain. In this video, we'll explore what neuroplasticity really is, what strengthens it, what limits it, and why rewiring the brain is both more possible and more complex than self-help slogans suggest. 1. What neuroplasticity actually means. Neuroplasticity simply means the brain can change its structure, function, and connections in response to experience. Every time you learn something new or repeat a behavior, neurons fire together, strengthening connections and weakening others. This is often summarized as neurons that fire together wire together. But there are actually several types of plasticity working together all the time. 2. Synaptic plasticity and changing connections. The first type is synaptic plasticity. This is when the strength of the connection between two neurons changes. With repetition, signals travel more efficiently, and pathways become easier to activate. This is why, the first time you practice a skill, it feels awkward, but over time it becomes automatic. The brain is physically reorganizing synapses to make the behavior easier to repeat. 3. Structural plasticity and changing the brain's physical map. Another form of plasticity is structural plasticity. This is when the brain actually changes shape and wiring patterns based on use. Areas that are used more can grow denser networks of connections, and this doesn't mean the brain grows larger, but that its internal wiring map changes. So practice doesn't just help you get better, it literally reshapes brain pathways. 4. Neurogenesis, the new neurons in adulthood. For many years, scientists believed the adult brain could not generate new neurons. But we now know some areas, especially those involved in learning and memory, can form new cells under the right conditions. This doesn't mean endless brain regeneration, but it shows that the adult brain remains biologically dynamic. 5. Plasticity is not always positive. We often talk about neuroplasticity as if it's always a good thing, but the brain doesn't judge habits as helpful or harmful. It strengthens whatever you repeat. So anxiety patterns, rumination, compulsions, addictions, and unhelpful coping behaviors can also become deeply wired through repetition. This is sometimes called maladaptive plasticity. The brain gets better at whatever it practices, even if those patterns cause suffering. 6. Priming, attention, and repetition as the brain's training rules. For rewiring to happen, the brain relies on three key ingredients. Attention, meaning that what you consciously focus on is more likely to rewire circuits. Repetition, where pathways strengthen when signals fire repeatedly over time, not from a single effort. And emotion or relevance, where emotionally meaningful experiences tend to leave stronger traces in the brain. This is why significant life events or emotionally charged learning are easier to remember. 7. The energy-saving brain and why habits become automatic. Your brain's main priority is efficiency. Repeated pathways require less energy and become default responses. This is why habits feel automatic. Your brain isn't trying to trap you, it's trying to conserve effort. But this also means rewiring habits requires consistent, deliberate practice, not just insight or motivation. 8. sensitive windows and plasticity across the lifespan. Plasticity is strongest in childhood, but it never disappears. In adulthood, it becomes more selective. The brain tends to strengthen pathways related to what you repeatedly use and prune connections you don't, so change is possible. But it usually requires intention and persistence rather than sudden transformation. 9. Stress, safety, and plasticity. Here's a lesser known detail. Plasticity depends on the brain feeling relatively safe. Chronic stress and threat shift the brain into survival mode, prioritizing rapid reactions over slow, reflective learning. This can make new learning harder and strengthen reactive habits instead, so emotional safety, rest, and recovery aren't optional extras. They support the biological conditions for rewiring. 10. Movement and sleep, the unsung plasticity partners. Physical movement increases brain chemicals that support neuronal growth and wiring. Sleep helps stabilize new connections, consolidating learning, and integrating experiences. So, rewiring the brain isn't just about mental effort, it's deeply connected to the state of the body. 11. Trauma and plasticity, when survival becomes habit. Traumatic experiences can strongly shape neural circuits because they involve intense emotional learning. The brain learns what is dangerous, how to react, and how to stay alert. These patterns can persist, even after the danger is gone, not because the person is weak, but because the brain successfully adapted to survive. Healing often involves creating new patterns of safety, connection, and regulation so the nervous system can rewire again. 12. Can you consciously rewire your brain? In many ways, yes. Repeated behaviors, attention training, emotional learning, therapy, habit building, skill development, and deliberate practice can gradually reshape brain pathways. But it isn't instant. The brain changes slowly, through consistent repetition, with rest in between, over weeks, months, and years. Rewiring is less like flipping a switch, and more like carving a path through stone, drop by drop. 13. The most honest truth about neuroplasticity. Change is possible, but not effortless. The brain is plastic, but also efficient, so it prefers the pathways you already use most often. This is why change can feel uncomfortable at first. But with repetition, the new pathway can gradually become the easier one. Your brain is not a fixed machine, it is a living system, constantly reshaping itself, based on experience, attention, and meaning. Every day, your thoughts, your behaviors, your focus, and your environment are quietly sculpting neural pathways. This means your past wiring explains your present, but it does not limit your future. Neuroplasticity is the science that bridges both. Thanks for watching The Everyday Brain. If you'd like more science-based videos, please subscribe.